All right, so as a 20-year vet in the hospital healthcare system, what's wrong with healthcare?
Huge question, countless answers to that. But to me, I start at the focus, which are patients and healthcare professionals.
Okay.
The current system doesn't operate in a way that delivers care in a way that patients and their families want to receive it, and doesn't deliver on the outcomes that people and the broader society need. On the professional side, candidly speaking, it's too hard to provide care in a world where we have technologies available to us to make life easier, more simple, and more effective for those who've dedicated their lives to providing health care to other people. And so we need to better leverage technologies to make the whole system better through the lens of patients, families, communities, and professionals.
How do we get to the point where that is the problem?
Slow inertia, slow progress and change. The system is not set up inherently to change, but I would say healthcare has evolved slower than any major industry or big business in this country, and it's just an issue of lagging behind and staying in an antiquated world.
Okay. I think I know the answer, but there's plenty of conspiracy theories as to why.
I know where you're going.
There's no business in healthy and dead people. They want to keep us alive and sick. Like, do you think that those types of conspiracies, there's truth to them, or are those just narratives? And it really is like the healthcare system really does want to make people better. It's just so big, so antiquated. It hasn't been set up the right way. Like, do you think those conspiracy theories are true?
I do not. And
I thought that I thought that was going to be the answer. And the reason being, where we go with this conversation, what you're doing with Health Forward, if you believe those conspiracy theories, then you're not going to do what you're doing.
Yes. It is not a conspiracy. However, within our capitalistic structure, there are absolutely financial incentive structures in place that are able to capitalize on people being sick and staying sick. I say no because the people that are the boots on the ground, hands-on, doctors, techs, nurses, in 20 years of working with them and closely, I have never heard anything but the opposite of that. The tone in their voice, the look in their eyes when they are working to make someone better belies the notion of the system is set up to keep people sick. I think the system is set up in its present state not to drive advancement and innovation, not to change rapidly, which has the downstream outcome of keeping people sick. But the people doing the work day to day absolutely want to help people, got into the profession to help people and make people better.
And I believe that, and I agree with that. I don't think I've ever believed the conspiracy theories, but I think from an institution standpoint, maybe there is a little bit of some of that there. But to your point, the people who are doing the work, I don't believe they believe it at all. And I believe the doctors want to help and the nurses. And you look at how many hours they work and how they don't take care of themselves because of how hard they're working. Like, you don't do that unless you really want to try to help somebody. Right. So I find that refreshing, although I'm not surprised. So one of the things that I think is really cool is nothing bothers me more than people who want to point out flaws and they want to complain and talk about what's wrong, but yet they don't do anything about it. You are doing something about it. So I want to talk about Health Forward, what it is, and then I do want to spend some time on how did you make that thing become a reality, because it's one of my favorite stories to tell. I'm going to give a little bit of insight, and you already said this is okay, but there's a book coming out called More Than Money, Volume 2, and it's even more than money, that the AGC, the community I'm in, we put together stories from the practice, anonymized. you've already told me that I can share that my chapter is actually about you. So you are Kendrick in my chapter, but it's one of my favorite stories to tell because of how it all played out. So I want to make sure we tell that story. So with that setting the stage of kind of where we're going to go next, let's talk about Health Forward. I assume, and I know, but I assume that is your solution for how do we fix this problem. So like, let's talk about Health Forward. How did you come up with the idea? What is it? And then we'll go from there.
Yeah, Health Forward was born out of the idea of how do we pull the healthcare industry forward through leveraging technologies in a way to deliver better care through the eyes of patients in the community and the eyes of those who have dedicated their lives to providing healthcare, our healthcare professionals out there. And, 20 years on the inside of hospitals and health systems enabled me to see and learn a lot and work with countless incredible people, mentors, coworkers, teammates, etc. But what it also showed was, one, a laser focus on the opportunities to drive improvement and the flaws in the system that the outside world doesn't even know exist. And thus, you can't have the right conversation around how to solve them. And so, my passion really started to shift around how do we solve those problems differently. I was on a path of, climbing the corporate ladder, if you will, in hospitals and health systems. Multiple vice president level jobs, C-suite, ultimate access to the highest decision makers, boards, etc. And, understanding that we were having the wrong conversation, we weren't addressing directly the right problems, and we weren't pulling in the outside world to potentially help us. We remained tethered to incrementalizing the old way of doing things, which was never going to lead us to a better place. And, sometimes to see things clearly, you've got to have that time, right? And you could make those assessments in a couple or 3 years, but you don't have the time span to really see how things are going to shake out. 20 years gives you a lot of breadth of information and trajectory and pattern recognition to see this isn't going to change. I've had conversations where something that really got at me was, largely, we're delivering healthcare today in 2026 the same way we were in 2006, the same way we were in 1986. And I'm sure if you go back to 1966, I wasn't alive then, but largely the same. And yes, we've sprinkled on electronic health records and new types of imaging equipment and surgical robots, but the meat and potatoes of it, the methodology and the way we think about it is largely the same. And it sparked the thought process of, well, nothing else in our world has followed that logic. So why are we doing that? While looking to the outside world and seeing banking, financial services, travel, everything pass us by, transform, revolutionize, and in a way where consumers liked it better. With healthcare, if you asked 100 people, do you like the way you receive healthcare and the way it's delivered and the experience and the feeling and the outcomes? My hypothesis is 90% would say no. And actually, we kind of hate it. We don't have another option. My wife, Katie, would always say, as I was thinking through, making this transition to the outside world, someone from the outside in the tech space is going to figure this out, and they are going to blow up the industry. Why don't you go work with them? Because do you really want to be on the inside of the industry when it gets blown up? So go be a part of the change, leveraging your experience that they don't have on the outside to help them make the change in a way that is mindful of the important parts of our healthcare system that we want to maintain. And that was that was a huge spark as well in the process, was hearing someone completely from the outside who also has a servant's heart. She was a special ed elementary school teacher, who also got to watch me do healthcare from a lens that was much closer than the average person. The things that she probably knows and understands from those you walk in the door and those spouse conversations about the workday, she was able to glean so much and provide so much outside insight into my experience that I leveraged in, moving my path.
Shout out to Katie. Like, I'm glad you spoke more about her role in it, because I was going to shout her out anyways when you got done. But so yes, she outside gets to see you do that, but she also has a very vested interest in you not leaving the hospital system. Like, there's the fear of starting your own business and where does money come from and all these types of things. And yet, even though that is something that was out there, she was still like, go do this thing. Like, not everybody has a supportive spouse in that way, which is really, really cool. So all the other things that she did, but just the support and the belief in you and the encouragement to trust that you're going to do what's right for your family. Like, that's awesome.
Yeah, I'll paraphrase what she said. But it was one of those conversations that will stick with me forever and ever because of just the different layers to it. And as an aside, I do believe that God puts people in your life for the moments and the wisdom that they bring. And, this is towards the end of the journey story, but I had done all the things but make the final decision in my head. And weighing the gravity of, am I about to leave this lucrative career on a predictable path, and the known, to take this chance on myself, on this vision, on this dream, with very much awareness around the impact to my family, right? And she knew that I was struggling with this without me having to say this. And so one day, more or less, she walks around the corner into my office and says, if you're worried about what if, parenthetically, what if this goes wrong? And what will this mean for us and our family? And if you're waiting for me to say, go do it, this is that conversation. Go do it, because I see how you feel about what you're currently doing. I see your energy around what you want to go do. I can tell by the tone of your voice on the other side of closed doors when you're on meetings which thing you're doing based on your voice and your energy. One is energy and passion and happiness. One is frustration, feeling stuck, a completely different energy. So go do the thing. I am here with you. I will be here with you. We will figure it out no matter where it goes. But you need to go for you, and you need to go do it for us. So go. And hearing her verbalize that was the final push off the cliff, where I knew I had to do it. I knew I had her support. And at that point forward, I couldn't not do it. And we did. I did. And that was the last little bit. And so, part of the journey is the support structures. You were a huge person in building those bricks and not letting me walk back from the ledge. One of our other close friends, Andre, who's very entrepreneurial himself, provided a lot of push. He told me once, stop thinking and planning and just jump and figure it out on the way. Within the healthcare side and the tech side, I had some incredible people that said, do it, and others who didn't say do it, but enabled me to continue to move forward and do it. And so, I took all those as signs and signals that I was on the right path, and gave me the courage to leave something comfortable and safe and financially secure to go out on my own and trust the path and trust the process.
In your mind, what was the worst case scenario? And then what would, like, if the worst case scenario happened, then what, if that makes sense?
Complete and total failure.
And then what?
No money. And it wasn't about the money. It was about what that would mean for my family and my ability to take care of my family. You often hear from, folks who don't come from a lot that their biggest fear is going back. Right. So there was some of that. And then also going back to, my parents and my grandparents, like, they really didn't come from a lot, right? But on both sides, they put in place opportunities for my parents to grow and have more. My parents worked and positioned us to have the opportunity as well. And so I felt and still feel a responsibility to the blood, sweat, and tears of those who came before me to not squander the opportunity, right? And so in retrospect, as I sit here today, even if I would have done it and it not gone well, that wouldn't have been squandering the opportunity.
Right.
Because what I was doing was an expression of freedom and authenticity and following my heart to try to do what I thought would make the biggest impact or more of an impact than just climbing the corporate ladder. But in that moment, there was fear of, I'm fortunate to be in this seat and in this role. What isn't lost on me is there are not a lot of people that look like me that get to that level in that seat, in those neighborhoods, in those schools, in the access that I had. And was I being irrational by not just taking the win and moving forward, right? Versus deviating from the path that so many people just want to get on and be on for a whole host of reasons. All things I had to get over in my own head and then move forward, and then the reality of, and we've talked about a lot over the years, like, these thoughts are in our head for a reason. Our purpose is built into us from the beginning for a reason. And to have the mind and the heart and the drive and the creativity to veer away from the path is for a reason, right? And so then the conversation internally became, am I not listening to what I'm supposed to be doing in deference to that which is safe and financially lucrative? And is that what I'm supposed to be doing? And the authentic Frank maybe is actually going that way, and staying on this path upward in the traditional sense isn't actually who I was or what I was put here to do. And the more you unpack that, the more you realize, like, that is absolutely the case, and so all that helped, as wind at my back to push me to just a different way and a different path.
How'd you overcome the fear of, no money, losing everything? Like, how did you overcome that fear? What did you tell yourself, or how did you make yourself realize that scenario probably isn't realistic?
Faith and Kendrick quote, we gonna be all right. If you believe that God's got your back and got a plan, go on the journey, right? And through strengthening my faith and beginning to walk that and trust that, in addition to support and encouragement, even to this day where you're an entrepreneur, you can go down this rabbit hole of what happens if the money runs out. And up to recently in my life and my career, I was very focused on, the accounting of it all. I've never had more peace in my financial situation than right now, while being as insecure or unstable or volatile rather in my financial position. You know, there's something nice about that every 2-week paycheck that you know is going to come in, whether you're good at your job or bad at your job, versus like you're only able to support your family based on your performance. And I've never had more calm and peace around the situation as I have right now, which again is a signal that like you're on the right path.
Right. Well, and I think just because I know the story and I was there for a lot of it, you also did a lot of preparation beforehand to like, okay, we've got runway and this much runway. And the reality of it is, I think you said this when we were recording earlier, you know, talking about the business plan and everything, you could go get another job. Yeah. Like to me, that's the safety net is like, okay, if things started to not work out well, I can always go back to the corporate world. Like I'm in demand. I'll have to put my tail between my legs and, you know, I was wrong, but you could always go back and get another job. Right. But I also think there's something about you knowing you from high school and being an athlete, there's this level of self-confidence. And what I watched was through our conversations and going from I want to be the CEO of a hospital system one day to I don't know if that's what I want to do. And the change coming, you found that thing that you were supposed to do. And you didn't even have the whole vision yet, but it was as Health Forward started to come to be, I could start to see that self-belief that I can do this increase. And I think the key thing was you found your thing. And once you find your thing, that self-confidence becomes a lot easier to believe. And then in that belief is when this thing becomes a reality. Like that's what I love about your journey, your story is, you know, we came into 2025 with the game plan being at the end of 2025, I'm going to leave. I'm going to go start this thing. I've got clients that I've already been working at building, and we'll talk about that in a moment of like, how did you build this while you were still doing the corporate thing so that, you know, your leap of faith was not as wide as if you just said, you know what, you didn't do Jerry Maguire and like lose your shit and then just leave with no game plan. Right. Like you had savings, you had clients, you had contacts, you had all this stuff that like this leap of faith became a lot closer. But as I watched it, so we come into 2025, end of December. And through our conversations, there was a moment where I could feel that you were serious about it. Like a lot of times we move deadlines. I'm going to do it at this point and then we push it out. We find a reason not to do it. We're waiting for perfection. I could tell there was no waiting for perfection. December was it. And I wish I had the transcribers running back then. I remember, at least the story I tell myself, I feel like I remember telling you, all right, Frank, once you commit to this, the universe has a way of making things happen a lot faster than you expect. So we'll plan for December, but I bet it happens faster. And then I think it was February or March, I get a text and we're talking and I don't know if I can make it, man. I don't know if I can do it. Like things are so frustrating. Things aren't where I want them to be. And I knew at that moment, part of it was what was going on at work. But the real reason you couldn't wait is you were already living Health Forward. Like in your mind, that was all you thought about all of the time. You were wanting to do that. You were wanting to be that. Like that's that embodiment that I talk about. You were embodying that version of you and you wanted that so bad. And so I was like, just, you know, if you can wait till October, there's financial reasons for you to wait until October. Let's just get to October. If not, you're okay. Financially, you don't need this, but let's wait till October. And then boom, summer rolls around and let's do it. We're going. And it was just really cool to watch. But like, I love it because whether financial professionals want to admit it, like that's manifestation by definition. It's a vision. It's emotionally attached. There's purpose sent to it. You took action. Like you didn't wait for it to happen. You went and got the clients. You had the conversations. You set up the LLC. You put up the business accounts. Like you did all the things to put it in. And once you get to that level of commitment and it is the thing you're supposed to be doing, then the magical forces, luck falls your way and boom, here we are. And you're, 6 months in with 10 companies that you're consulting with, providing for your family, and you haven't even put it out there yet. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like you've built this great business already that in theory you probably don't need to do a whole lot more for. It will just continue to grow on your own. And you haven't even let the world know what it is you're doing, your vision. And once you start putting your thought leadership out there, like that's going to be gasoline on the fire.
Yeah.
It's been really cool.
Yeah, no, thank you. And I want to rewind a bit to something you said about the fear aspect of it. And part of what, makes me smile on the inside is I have more fear around having to go back than I do of not having business success on my side, right? Like the way my stomach churns and heart drops at the thought of I got to go back, is an absolute, kind of door closing sensation that makes taking the risk that I'm taking, more palatable than that.
I think that's a good thing to point out, though. That's awesome because people want to know, like, how do I know?
Right.
Like, that's how you know. Like, so much of living your authentic life and pursuing it and being your true self, it's feeling.
Yeah. And it's not a bad breakup emotion when I think about running hospitals, because I love that profession. I love healthcare. There's so much about it that I enjoy and love and have reverence for. But I legitimately feel I can do more good work outside in versus inside out. And I feel like I got to a place where I really couldn't do any more and keep growing after the 20 years or so. And so it's like at that point I either just stand in place or I go do something else from a different angle. And what I love about what I'm doing, when working with those that are innovating for hospitals and health systems, is I get to apply all that knowledge and experience, and I still get to work with, for, and in, hospitals and health systems as well. And, it's an ecosystem that is special unto itself. And when I'm on site with clients, I love going back into those facilities and seeing the work that, healthcare professionals are doing and understanding the impact and the importance that it's having on patients and families. I'm just delighted in not having to carry that burden as my day-to-day job and taking that home with me. And, the reality of, running a hospital is it's 24/7, 365 operation. And so they don't close. Nights, weekends, holidays, vacations, doesn't matter. The first week I was gone from the hospital, Katie looked at me and again, paraphrasing, something to the effect of, in our 15 years together, this is the first time you've ever been able to sleep with your phone off. And that had never occurred to me. And then we started to, over the next, few weeks, because I did take a little bit of time off for the first time in my professional career, a couple weeks, and started to realize all the things that I had missed. When you're home in the summertime and, family's having a conversation and they're telling stories, and where was I? You were at work. Where was I? You were at work. Where was I? You were here, but you weren't here. And we've got young kids, Grace is soon to be 12, Austin soon to be 9, but it's just like, holy smokes, like, how much did I miss, And my current path, allowing me to be more present, is a huge non-financial benefit to the decision. But by being more present and having your cup filled in the other avenues of life makes me better at the productivity side of my work as well. And just the realization that giving everything to your career doesn't mean you're actually giving more to your career. There's a diminishing returns to it. And by being a more well-rounded, thriving person, you're actually able to do better work, right? And show up better in all avenues of your life.
I also inevitably we're going to miss stuff. I think it becomes easier to accept the missing when the thing you're doing is filled with purpose and enjoyment and passion. Like, to miss kids' field trips doing a job you hate, that's like pouring salt on the wound. Right. But okay, I can't go to this this field trip, but I'm doing this thing that is a greater purpose that's making change in the world and is important. It to me, it makes it like worth it, because we can't miss everything. We do have to work and we do have to provide, but it makes it easier. So I think that's one benefit of being in control. And for both of us, entrepreneurship is the path. It doesn't have to be the path for everybody. Like that's one of the things I fear in having these conversations is so many times the people I talk to, their authentic life brings them to being totally in control, being an entrepreneur. But not everybody needs to be an entrepreneur. And I also think there are phases. Like the really cool thing I think about when I look at it is like I love looking back over time for breadcrumbs. And a big, I don't know of any specific breadcrumbs of your journey, but when I look back, I'm like, okay, the path to CEO, the pursuit you were on at one time, you didn't know it, but you needed to be on it to put you in position to do the work you're doing today. Absolutely. And so when you look back, I'm sure there's little things along the way of either people you met or experiences where you're like, oh, like if I only would have realized it at that time, I would have known this is where I'm going to end up. Like little things for me have been like there's been copy on my website that I did 5 years before I found life planning, but that language is even more suitable for today than it was back then. Like that's a breadcrumb that I'm where I'm supposed to be. And sometimes we don't know it until hindsight. But I also think that now that you've gone through this experience, it allows you to be, as you're more present, it allows you to pick up on some of these signs that will help direct you going forward. Like you had to experience 20 years of a means to an end, and the end was different than what you thought it was. Right. And now you can learn from that experience to pick up cues along the way that will help direct you as you do this next thing. And I think the biggest thing is, we were talking about earlier, this whole thing for you is about serving others. And I think that and I know that to be true. Like a lot of people say that, they don't mean it. Like I know you genuinely want to do this because you want to serve others. You want to serve patients, you want to serve the healthcare workers, you want to improve people's lives. Like I know that's who you are. Because that is the motivation behind it, like that's another reason that success is going to be a part of it, is because it's for a greater good. Yes, you can make a great living. You can probably make more money than you would have made in the hospital system over time doing this, but you're also going to have a much bigger impact. And I think about value determining how much money we bring into our lives. Like I do think that the money that we command is a representation of the value we provide to the world. And maybe you take a short step back now as you build this thing, but you're going to create way more value for the world, which will probably, from a financial component, if that's what you want and you need, be much greater than you would have done in the hospital system.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And in that really, you want to get into the why?
Yeah, let's go to the why.
The why behind it. And so at a 50,000 foot level, Health Forward was created to help those that are innovating for and sell into hospitals, bridge the gap between the innovation that's needed and the problems and solutions that are needed on the hospital and health system side. The why behind that is that patients, their families and loved ones that support them, and the healthcare workers deserve better, need better, require better than the way we currently deliver care and run the business of hospitals and health systems. Being in the field in different roles, whether it was, managing a merger and acquisition or running a multi-specialty physician practice or, hospital operations or strategy or, the big seats of you've got, the whole entity operationally to run, you see the gaps and the holes. And what stuck with me, and we've talked about this a little bit before, is there is nothing quite like the feeling of you go on a nursing unit and you see how hard everyone's working to take care of other people and make them better. And they're just stuck in the mud because the systems that we have in place hold them back and make it hard for them. And the frustration that they would carry and the anger that would bubble up and watching them question, like, do I even want to do this for my profession? And sitting in a seat where I and to my other healthcare executive peers out there we should be able to fix that. We have a responsibility to fix that. Our job is to fix that and to not be able to. And to feel a responsibility to those healthcare workers and to those patients, and yet know that your hands are tied because we don't have the tech and tools to do it in a economical, efficient way that can drive the clinical outcomes and create the working environment that we should have. And those moments stuck with me and were some of those breadcrumbs that led me to, I can either keep doing this and banging my head against a wall, or I can at least try from another angle to bring about the tools and tech and change and transformation that everyone would benefit from, or everyone wants. Also sitting at a day in 2026 where we're at the precipice of this golden era, where I do think over the next decade, if we do this right, if both sides lean in correctly, healthcare delivery in 10 years will look nothing like it looks like today, to the benefit of many. But without folks bridging that gap and applying insider know-how with an understanding of what the tools and tech do and how to stand them up and get them into the ecosystem, we're going to stay right where we are and right where we have always been. And so I decided to put my efforts and time and energy into that, being a part of that change and driving it forward. When I think about the broader journey and everything that I learned that kind of led me to this path, first job I was blessed to have was, what they call an administrative fellowship. And that's where you get to, ride shotgun with all the big healthcare decision makers in your entity. And it really shows you the depth and breadth of the machine that is a hospital or health system. So you've got that initial framework of just how complex this all is. Job 2 was managing a merger and acquisition, but really what I learned from that is empathy, human empathy, because I had to work on both sides of the acquirer and the acquired. And the human empathy learnings of my job, my profession is being taken over from an outside entity, and the insecurity that caused in their lives taught me a lot about working and leading from a human-focused standpoint, because this wasn't their job. This was their lives that were being disrupted by this merger and acquisition. After that, I got to run a multi-specialty surgical practice where I really got to work closely with physicians and patients and understand patients at a level that in my 20s, I had not had a lot of healthcare stuff for myself, and I was single, so I didn't have a family. But really getting to see that up close while partnering with physicians and other technicians and understand what makes them tick and why they do what they do, right? So again, building bricks, to something better. From there, I went to hospital operations and got to, again, see at a very granular level how nurses worked, what their challenges and constraints were. Move from there to strategy. So again, like, how are we making big decisions to drive the business and outcomes forward? And then, from there, my last role in healthcare as COO of a large hospital in the Metro Detroit area, where you truly had kind of the bigger burden of everything going on, from the hospital, the community, the physicians, the staff, 2 years into that run, a little global pandemic and having to run a hospital on site day in and day out for that journey. And that's really where the first big enlightenment came, because through the pandemic, a lot of the suits, corporate suits, went away. And what was left were the frontline workers, the operational leadership team guiding the workforce, and a much smaller subset of hospital executives, so chief nurse, chief medical officer, myself, etc. And in that experience, through really obviously challenging times, unforeseen, unprecedented times, we were able to create, innovate, try, fail, pivot on almost a day-to-day basis. And what it showed me was a level of innovation that we were capable of and the willingness to do it. And so my hope as the pandemic finally started to ease off was this will be an inflection point for the industry to go in a new direction where we would have political tailwinds, economic tailwinds. If we would have blown up the health system at that moment, there would have been minimal pushback because, well, yes, of course, coming out of that, you're going to pivot, right? And what happened was the opposite. The industry snapped back to exactly what it always was. The reins got tightened. Creativity was not, solicited. It was back to the old playbook. And in that moment, I realized this is never going to go in a different direction. And I am wired and aligned around new and innovative and how do we do this differently. And that's when the light bulb went off of I might have to go. And so run that out, that's probably roughly 2022, 2023-ish, where I first started to have those thoughts of, I've got to do this from another angle. All the while, even pre-pandemic, through, selfish motivations, I was already exploring and doing deep dives into technologies because I wanted to run a better, smarter, faster hospital. Do it myself in my own learning lab and then share that with other hospitals and health systems, model that, demonstrate that as a proof point that it could be done, right? And so, I started to, at that point, I had begun building a network on the health tech and innovation side, and so when I had my light bulb moment of maybe I need to at least ponder doing something else, I had people to call directly, right? And talk to on the other side of the tracks about, how do we do this differently? And so all that kind of led to a place where it became abundantly clear that I was not necessarily well suited to continue my journey in the hospital and healthcare world. We joke that, I had several of my, she don't want you anymore moments from the corporate structure, whereby, okay, the world is telling me you don't have a path forward in this lane anymore, while opening doors that said, hey, you can take this experience and this passion and do it another way, and begin to conceive of a new path and an exit, etc. And so off we went very slowly, and in some ways unbeknownst to me that that's what was happening, but all the while breadcrumb, leading me to where I sit today.
I joked with you yesterday as we were talking before you drove down that I wonder if it was a she don't want you moment or she doesn't want you anymore, she being the profession, because she realizes you don't want her. Like, I wonder if which one was first. Was it like you realizing the profession was no longer the right path for you, or did subconsciously you already know and you were starting to move that direction, and then the profession reflected that back to you? And not that it matters. I love thinking about those little things like, oh, I think it's she don't want me more, but maybe she didn't want me because I didn't want her. And it was picking up on those subconscious vibes that I was on my way out, so it was going to reflect that back to us. Regardless, it worked out the way it's supposed to. You rattled off all of the different positions and the impact you had, the things you did. Fast forwarding 5 years, we have this conversation again. Like, what does that next thing sound like for you in 5 years?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I hope through this journey that, obviously I am able to impart experiences and hard-earned wisdom on, various healthcare innovation companies to help them understand and thrive within the healthcare space, right?
How do you do that? Like, when you say that, what does that mean? Like, how are you helping the companies you're working with?
Yeah, absolutely. So, first I'll start by saying there's so much that health tech doesn't understand about how hospitals and health systems actually run. And there's so much that hospitals and health systems don't know about the technologies and how to apply them and what benefit they could provide. And so what I view as, kind of what I specialize in is, helping early stage companies, really refine their product design, how they'll function, what their value prop is through the lens of their customer, hospitals and health systems, how to communicate that, because you can create something, but if you can't explain it in a way that the prospective client understands and will want it, you've accomplished nothing. So how do we talk about this? How do we help you be fluent in another language that you're not fluent in? And then as an operations guy, how do we stand it up, make it successful in the field, make it align with clinician workflows, have it produce the outcomes that are meaningful for hospitals and health systems so they can derive value and make the progress that they want to, they want to achieve. And across that continuum, helping them understand the whole package from product conception through implementation and success and scale to get, whether it's their company or their portfolio or a product segment in a broader industry, move it forward, because it's all about moving the industry forward to the mutual benefit of hospitals and health systems as well as the innovation sector as well. So some of that is rolling up my sleeves, some of that is advisory and consulting, and some of it is, thought leadership and speaking and connection and bringing people together, because there's so much opportunity out there. There's so much brilliance out there. There's so much desire to make it better. We've got to get people to the table to problem solve it together and build solutions and implement solutions and make it, I hate the phrase, but make it a win-win for both sides versus, a sales client kind of dynamic.
I don't know. I just think about it. It's exciting. Like I think it's easy for people to tell, like, this is what you're supposed to be doing, like energetically, the way you talk about things and the vision. And one of the things I think is really cool you did mention is the way to help. But I think it's important to highlight, just because there might be somebody who is at a health tech that is going to need your help one day in the future, is another big value you have of 20 years is the connections. And I think what's really unique about the way that you approach it and you've talked about it is, like, just because people know you doesn't mean they get access to your Rolodex. And then I think that people should want that, because that means that when you make connections, both sides know it's meaningful and no one's time is being wasted. Whereas if part of your value was, I'll introduce you to everybody I know, then all of the important decision makers that no longer are going to take your intros because they know it's a waste of time. And I don't think that a lot of people think about it from that perspective, like the genuine human connection and the value of that and protecting that and only using it when it's right. That's a huge value add.
Yeah, absolutely. We joke, no pimping out the Rolodex in the network.
Right.
Like that's not what I do. It all comes back to the very notion of in service to others. And so, I grew up professionally in that space, and we're at a place in our careers where I've got a lot of like actual real life friends in these really important seats, and they are struggling with solving the problems that I was, right? And so I want to help my friends and my peers solve problems by bringing to them solutions to the things that they are worried about and keeping them up at night. If I can help, a dear friend of mine who's a CEO of a hospital in Philadelphia, as an example, solve something so he can be more present for his daughters rather than stressed about how are we going to fix this, because I live that myself. I'm not just helping the industry. I'm not just helping a tech company. I'm helping people and a person. And if he can solve that for his entity, it's then helping all those people downstream. And so the connections are in service to people solving problems that they have. that'll make a meaningful impact in their lives and in their professions versus just, meet this person to sell them something.
Right.
And what I've shared with, some clients is my relationship with that person is more valuable to me than anything you could pay me. And so I will not trade that for that.
Right.
Because they're real life professional and personal contacts and relationships that I've cultivated myself over time. And what does that mean? What is the value of the friend that is a nursing leader in, Indiana? Well, what happens when a friend or a loved one is in that market and has a health issue and needs help? And the difference between access and not access for that person is, will that leader take my phone call? And if they're worried about, I'm running a sales play every time they see Frank Sawyer on their phone, they're probably not going to take that phone call, which downstream means the person that needs my help can't get the help that they need because of how I've managed my professional relationships, and so that's why I take so much care in how I manage those relationships, how I protect those relationships is if I don't bring value to the person I'm calling, then I have to question why I'm calling professionally. And even in friendships and relationships, I kind of navigate life where I want to leave people better than I found them. If we grab coffee, I want you to feel better leaving coffee than you walked in. Be a benefit, be an upper in their life, whether it's personal or professional, and just be additive, to their life, their world, and their experience. And so that's where kind of personal Frank and professional Frank, there's alignment in just how I do life and do business. And one of the value structures that I am adamant about bringing to health forward.
So what's next? What can everybody expect to see coming from you in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. I want to first, conceptually start to bring forward the universe of possibilities that technology could bring to the healthcare sector, right? From there, really help healthcare leaders focus in on the right solutions, help health tech companies that I would put my stamp of approval on grow in prominence. And by stamp of approval, I mean, I try to only work with companies that I believe in to the point where I would do them myself if I was still in the field, right? And so helping the right ones cut through the noise and raise their level of awareness and adoption. And then zoom out further and start to have these broader industry discussions around technology adoption. Why not, when, how do we accelerate? Let's talk about the barriers to entry and how we defeat them and how we get to a place of better health and well-being and thriving for the broader healthcare landscape, because healthcare is big business. It impacts everyone's life. If we can do it better, we can make lives better, communities better, business better, society better, etc. And so starting to have those larger scale conversations around, how do we drive this change and what's the why behind the change, and how do we pull in both sides and all sides of the industry towards a shared goal to benefit as many people as we possibly can.
So for a final question, and then we got some content strategy to do here in a little bit after we go grab some lunch. From your experience so far, navigating a successful career, realizing that the path you thought wasn't the right one for you, figuring out what was right, and then going to do it. From your experience, what perspective, what wisdom, what would you share with somebody else that may go on a similar path in the future, whether they know it or not?
I think once you get to the place where you know what you should do, what held me back was the mechanics of how does this fit within the broader life, right? Busy professional career of which I still had to do and do a great job with. Busy family life. How do I do all of the things so that I'm not just jumping off a cliff with no plan, right? And so thing one is start moving forward today. And even if you're only putting in place small bricks at a time and planning, just keep moving forward, right? In terms of life fit, make the short-term sacrifice for the big game, for the big gain rather. In my world, what it looked like was I would get up even earlier, put in some work, come home from work, do the family thing, coach the kids' sports. But for that last several months, we'll call it, I would go to my chair at 8 o'clock, wife, kids, everybody knew, and I would work as long as I could, just to move the ball forward. And through committing and doing it, even if it's not fully comfortable, even if it doesn't fit with your schedule, but just step by step, over time you look up and you're right there. And that Grand Canyon is now a crack that you just have to take that final step over. But so many people never start because it's not convenient or it's going to be hard or it's going to be, disruptive. Make it work. Cost to it, yeah. Like I was talking to Katie the other day, like I missed a lot of story time. Our ritual at our house was I would read to, one of the kids in the same chair that I referenced at that same time. But everybody kind of understood daddy's in his chair. He's working on the future. So we're going to pause that. Did I like that? No, but it was what had to be done. And it enabled me, in addition to the planning and the putting the bricks in place sooner, go faster so that I was ready. And so it's, don't be afraid of incrementalism. Don't be afraid of it not being perfect. Don't be afraid of not having the full plan sketched out first. Just go forward and make the sacrifices and wedge it in where you can. And it will materialize much, much faster through building the networks and having the conversations and doing all the things. When I did finally make the pivot, the machine was built. And so from that point, all I had to do was hit the green button and go, right? Which is why I think it's accelerated as quickly as I did. It feels fast, but as you alluded to earlier, we started planting the seeds in 2018, 2019. The light bulb went off for real, 2022, 2023. We started planning, and then January of 25, you're like, this is going to be the year. It's going to happen quick. Be ready. Planned, January 1, 2026. And I'm sitting there July of 25 and calling you on the truck on the way home from the hospital for the last time saying, let's go.
Such an awesome story. And obviously I'll have you back on as Health Forward begins to grow and maybe periodic. Spirit, mind, body, money is a big part of what I talk about. So bringing in, what you're seeing in the health front to kind of speak to the body stuff is kind of my go-to expert in the field would be kind of cool. Make you like the next Huberman, but in your own way. That'd be kind of cool. So I appreciate you, taking the time to share the story, share the wisdom. My hope is that by sharing stories like this, people can see what is possible. And that going to, you said it, not me, but I believe it, we all have this purpose within us that we're supposed to find. And once you find it, it becomes clear. And even though there is hard work, I don't know if you feel this way or not, but what I've identified is the hard work that we do that's attached to the thing that we're supposed to do doesn't feel so hard. Like you're working hard, I'm working hard, but it doesn't feel like hard work. I could be working less hard in a corporate job and it would feel like much harder because I don't enjoy it. And I think that you can enjoy your work. I do think that's a sign that you're doing something that you're supposed to, and lean into that. So I think your story is representative of what I want people to find in their own way. And the thing that's tough, I mentioned again, is it's not always an entrepreneurship. Like you can find this level of happiness and satisfaction within the constraints of a corporate job within the constraints of a hospital system. Like, there are nurses who are doing what it is that they're supposed to do, walking in their purpose, and love showing up every single day despite all of the shit they have to deal with, because that's where they're supposed to be. And then the final thing I'd offer from the story is don't be afraid to evolve as well. Like, getting to Health Forward was an evolution of you. And I think that there is a timeline that exists where you're still in the hospital system. And that is what was right for that timeline. Sure. And had you decided to stay there because you didn't have this passion on the other side, I don't think you would have done anything wrong. I don't think you would have compromised your authentic self. But because there was this passion, there was this pull, there was this drive for you today, you had to leave the hospital system. And that's just an evolution. So it's really cool. And what's been really cool is when we look back in 5 or 10 years and revisit this episode and see what it is that you're doing and what it is that you have done. Like, it's going to be really cool. So I appreciate you coming in to do this, sharing the story. My stomach is rumbling, so I'm looking forward to going get some lunch. Yeah. Plus, we got to get Morgan out of here as well. All right, well, thanks again, man. We'll have you back on. Where can everybody find you?
Website is healthforward.io.
Okay.
Also going to be much more active on LinkedIn.
Okay.
So engage, reach out, whether you're on the health tech side or the health system side, looking to solve problems. Would love to connect and have conversations and learn more about just what folks are going through and what they want to achieve.
All right. I'll have links to all that as usual. And then as you bring out more things, we'll make sure we bring that to everybody's attention. All right, man. I appreciate it. Let's get some lunch.
Yes, let's do it. Thank you.